The Giants interested in trading for this young stud pitcher out there in Miami? Let's talk about it right here on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Salz. Welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, thanks to you, the #1 sports podcast network. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines analytics, passion with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I also host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento River Cats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are discussing the Giants' interest in trading for that young pitcher out there for the Marlins, Edward Cabrera. Also, more Kyle Tucker rumors. They start to heat up as his market is changing a little bit. And last but not least, more conversations that the Giants' old moves are also their new moves. I'll explain just what exactly that means. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Okay. So according to John Heyman, the Giants, happy Wednesday, everyone, by the way. According to John Heyman, the Giants are one of the teams interested in trading for Edward Cabrera. And look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you are not a complete baseball nerd, I don't necessarily expect you to be extremely familiar with Edward Cabrera. I had to do more homework myself on Edward Cabrera. This is from MLB Trade Rumors. The Giants are also believed to be interested in Cabrera. John Heyman of the New York Post writes, San Francisco has already signed Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser to join Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, and Landon Roop in the rotation, but a more controllable pitcher like Cabrera would be useful since Ray and Mahle will be free agents next winter. Beyond that starting five, the Giants have several young arms, but not a lot of experience, and conceivably one or two of these pitchers could be moved to Miami in a hypothetical Cabrera trade package, which is interesting to think that, you add some of these guys and you're already shuffling things around. Now, to get to who exactly Cabrera is, Cabrera, 27 years old, is an exciting young arm with considerable upside. The righty enjoyed a breakout season last year with Miami, pitching to a 3.53 ERA in 137 innings of work across 26 starts. That's a decent mid-rotation production already, but what makes Cabrera an especially enticing trade candidate is the possibility he'll take a step forward in the future. The youngster averaged a career best 97 miles per hour on his fastball this past season, despite throwing a career high in terms of innings, and paired with a strong 25.8% strikeout rate with a career best 8.3 walk rate. Now, this is where the Giants get really, really interested. With a solid 47.9% ground ball rate for his career, in addition to those strong strikeout and walk numbers, it's not hard to imagine Cabrera building on his 2025 season to emerge as a dominant starter. The righty is also, here's another big reason the Giants would be interested. The righty is also controlled through the end of 2028, meaning that an acquiring club would have plenty of time to work with him before he reaches free agency. Of course, that's not to say there aren't causes for concern. 2025 was the first year Cabrera crossed the 100-inning threshold at the big league level due to an assortment of injury woes. The most significant were shoulder problems that limited him in both 2023 and 2024. But even last season saw Cabrera make 2 trips to the injured list. His second trip to the shelf, which occurred back in September, saw him sidelined due to an right elbow sprain. Elbow injuries are always worrisome for pitchers, given that UCL injuries wipe out at least a year of a pitcher's career when they require surgery, though it's worth noting that Cabrera still struck out 26.3% of his opponents over the final 2 starts of the season after he returned from the shelf. Okay, so that is a write-up from MLB Trade Rumors. Great stuff from Nick Deeds. They just do great work over there. And the causes for concerns are also alleviated a little bit by the time that you do have to work with him. I also think it's just interesting in baseball because things just take a lot longer with the minor leagues. 27 being a youngster. In basketball, you got guys that are 20 years old, 19 years old. You're basically old by 26 and 27. So it's just kind of funny how different sports leagues are just relative in that way. But the big thing here for the Giants is the control. Now, the reason I bring up the control, as they mentioned, he's controlled through the 2028, the end of the 2028 season, is because that's going to cost you. That is going to cost you. Now, I have no clue what the Marlins are attempting to do, every couple years. It's funny how the Marlins every couple years can find a way to get into the playoffs, but the Giants are unable to do that. But that's neither here nor there. As far as the control, it's going to cost any team that wants to be a part of this conversation. And I guess the negotiating back and forth would be, hey, you're saying that we need to pay X amount of assets or give you X amount of assets for this guy, but he's also had some injury history. And the Marlins would say, yeah, but the price is the price. We're going to have to take a chance on the injury history anyway, because he's our pitcher. If you think he's good enough to add to your rotation, it's going to cost you, because some of the guys that we've been talking about, a lot of the guys that we've been talking about, they only have one more year of control. And obviously that's a little scary, but those trade packages are less scary because the team that you're working with, they know, hey, he could walk in free agency or whatever the case may be. So we don't expect you to give us an arm and a leg in order to do that. With somebody like Edward Cabrera, you have him controlled through 2026, 2027 and 2028. So even if there was an injury, you still have time to kind of figure those things out. Obviously, you don't want that to happen and you're hoping that it doesn't happen, but you still have more time for that and to mold this guy. And then he'll be 30 years old, ready for a big paycheck if these 3 years go well for him. So you start looking at our trusty MLB prospect list and what the Marlins are attempting to do. If you want to trade somebody, again, I know, sorry, Carson Whisenhunt. Carson Whisenhunt just keeps getting thrown in all of these trade packages. And there's always one player in every sport that just gets thrown around in every trade package every single season. And it feels like Carson Whisenhunt is that guy because he has pitched major league innings. And honestly, it probably would be Birdsong if the end of his season didn't go as poorly as it did. But honestly, even if it was Birdsong and things did end in a different way, then at that point, the Giants probably just want to hold on to him because he's another young, controllable asset and young, controllable pitcher. So, you start looking at some of these different packages that the Giants could cook up, and it's probably not going to make you feel good, because I know that when we've talked about even guys that only have one year controlled, a lot of you didn't like that. So you start looking around here and you're talking about maybe two of these pitchers that you might not care too much about that are already kind of in the rotation, not the starting rotation, but just the rotation of arms, young arms for the Giants. And then you start looking at the prospects, and yeah, it's probably going to cost you one, maybe two guys, I would say, in the top 20 of your prospect list because of that control and how valuable that control is. But this is a guy that you can mold a little bit. You get him with Vitello, you get him with the new pitching coaches that you have, and you see if you can take a leap here within these next 3 years. It's just a matter of what you're willing to pay. And some of these other teams, when you start comparing, where their prospect lists are and how all those things compare together, you're looking at the Yankees, the Mets, and the Cubs. So those are three big hitters that we know are going to have some prospects that, they're going to be willing to move, because this is all a win now situation besides, I guess, the Cubs, right? But even the Cubs are making moves. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. So wanted to get a new name for you out there, Edward Cabrera. Be sure to check out that article that MLB Trade Rumors put out, and obviously what John Heyman had to say. On the other side, let's get back to one of the old faithful. There are conversations that the Giants are interested in Kyle Tucker, but what's really going on here and why Kyle Tucker probably wouldn't come to San Francisco on a prove-it deal. More Locked On Giants coming up. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming. Between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month, it's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I had so many secret fees that I was paying from just random subscriptions that I had, and Rocket Money helped get all of that under control. I was so shocked when I was paying for a lot of these things I completely forgot about, and Rocket Money has already saved me money. I love how it tracks all my subscriptions and lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. The automatic transaction categorization is a game changer. I can finally see exactly where my money is going each month. You can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Okay, so Kyle Tucker, that name has popped up once again. Kyle Tucker of the Chicago Cubs, as we've mentioned, he's supposed to be due to get a big paycheck. We don't know if that's actually going to happen now. And Mark Feinsand has thrown around the Giants as a team that has some interest. This is what he had to say on MLB.com. The potential price tag has limited Tucker's market. And it's kind of interesting how he talks about the market, but then says he might not get to the market. That potential price tag has limited Tucker's market to a finite number of teams, with the Yankees, Mets, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Dodgers joining the Blue Jays as clubs have been connected to him. Yet, while we've heard of potential interest from those teams, there hasn't been much substantial movement by any of them to actually get a deal done. Tucker isn't alone. He's one of more than half a dozen notable free agents still on the market, joining Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, and Zach Gallen on the list of stars still seeking new deals. Quote, "It's been quieter than expected for Tucker," a National League executive said. That seems to be a trend among several of this offseason's higher tier free agents. Some of the contract forecasts we saw at the outset of the offseason have proven to be wildly optimistic. It seems the market is telling us that the massive deals of the last few years are more outliers than anything we should anchor to. If Tucker can't find, this is going back to Mark Feinsand, if Tucker can't find the long-term deal he's seeking, he could opt to sign a shorter, high AAV deal like Bregman did last year, when he inked a 3-year, $120 million contract with $60 million deferred, with the Red Sox getting opt-out clauses after each season. Okay. So, and then he goes on to say, I didn't even want to read this part. Should Tucker begin to consider such deals, there is a belief that the Dodgers could pounce in that scenario, adding another all-star to their loaded lineup. So these are just pretty expensive prove-it deals. That's what this is turning into, right? A fairly expensive prove-it deal that Kyle Tucker could be signing, because teams, again, with the lockout looming, they just don't want to pay big money and be on the books until, for the next decade. People just don't want to do that. And if you're going to do that, it better be somebody like Shohei Ohtani. That's just the reality of the situation. And Kyle Tucker is really good, but he's not anywhere near Shohei Ohtani. That's just what it is. So, my first thought is the Giants even being included in this group tells me that the possibility of a prove-it deal is real. So I went on social media, on X, on Twitter, and I tweeted that. The response that I got from a lot of other Giants fans was legit. And it was, why in the world would Kyle Tucker come to Oracle Park for a prove-it deal? And I don't know why that wasn't the first thing that popped into my mind, but it's so true. It's so true. And unfortunately, yeah, if you look at these, these teams that got included in it, right? if you look at some of the names that have been added to this group and you're trying to put yourself in the best situation possible to get the bag, you're not going to do it at a ballpark that is known to not be a hitter's ballpark, to be a pitcher's ballpark. So you got the Yankees, he's lefty. So the Yankees in that ballpark, I mean, those are just pop-ups. You got the Mets, the Diamondbacks, and the Dodgers. It can fly out of Dodger Stadium as well. So I think that's a really good point. And unfortunately, and then you have obviously the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays are weird because the Blue Jays have been connected to him from get-go. And I think I mentioned this before. This was a basketball, I guess, aficionado that I was talking about, not baseball, but he said, Alan, when this stuff floats around for a very long time, a lot of times that means that it's not going to happen. So the Blue Jays have been signing all these guys, Cody Ponce, right? They've been signing all these guys, but this Kyle Tucker thing, who they've been linked to it since the beginning of the offseason, they haven't signed him yet. Doesn't that feel kind of weird? So I don't know what to do with the Blue Jays, and they've been spending a lot of money. So why haven't you just added Kyle Tucker? Right? Bo Bichette's still out there. Are you trying to bring him back? What's going on there? So I don't know what's going on with the Blue Jays, but if you look at the other teams that were brought up, the Yankees and of course the Mets, the Diamondbacks and the Smurfs, the Dodgers. Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to put yourself in the best position, I think you go to New York, right? Like I'm not trying to, bag on Yankee Stadium, but the bottom line is a lot of those home runs that he'd be hitting, those are maybe off the brick at Oracle Park. That's just what it is. And I know a lot of people get on Yankee Stadium. There's where Cincinnati, right? Great American Small Park. That's a small one too, but obviously they're not in the mix. I know the Red Sox, they got a really short porch in right field. Everybody talks about the Green Monster, but they got a short porch in right field too. They're not being included here. So it's not just Yankee Stadium, but if I'm looking at this group and I'm Kyle Tucker, I'm trying to put myself in the best position to really get the bag. And you're playing for the Yankees. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So I just, as soon as I put it out there, a lot of people saying, Alan, why in the world would he come here for a prove it deal? And I'm right there with you. So maybe there's something in the middle where the Giants say, hey, there is a middle ground that we think we can get to where it's a longer prove it deal, but maybe Kyle Tucker doesn't want that. And we know, as Mark Feinsand brought up, we know that the Giants don't like those player opt-outs, right? They said that Bregman got the opt-outs after every single year. And if I'm not mistaken, he left after the first year. So it's, hey, I'm going to have a good season. And if I stink, right, it's this weird thing where, if we get to keep them, that means they've probably not produced to the level that we want them to produce. And that's kind of that was kind of the issue that the Giants did not like with some of these deals of the past. We're putting it in a position where, you have a contingency plan as a player, but we don't have a contingency plan if you leave. So I don't see the Giants getting into this because I don't see them signing him for 10 years. And they could be interested in a shorter deal, but I don't see Kyle Tucker really being interested in a shorter deal, right? Why would you put yourself in a situation there? Like if you were a pitcher on a prove-it deal, would you want to go? I know it's the Yankees, so it's a little bit different, but would you want to go to Colorado on a prove-it deal, even if they had their stuff in order? Because you throw a pop fly, that thing's out of here. Would you want to go to Cincinnati on a prove-it deal? Probably not. Life is about putting yourself in good situations, not bad ones. And that is not putting yourself in a great situation, especially if you are Kyle Tucker. So that is kind of what we worked through as a Giants community. So it was a lot of fun yesterday when that came out. So appreciate you. I think some of you might have popped in there in the conversation. So appreciate that. But yeah, I just, those two options for Kyle Tucker, I just don't see on one side why Kyle Tucker says yes, on the other side why the Giants say yes. The Giants could say yes, they could sign him to 10 years, but they've just been telling us that they're not going to do it. Speaking of, I was perusing Giants social media and I saw a clip from MLB Network. And yeah, this whole idea of the moves that they made over the last 18 months are still counting now. That's actually a thing. And they're really trying to tick off fans. I'll explain what was said on the other side. More Locked On Giants coming up. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, FanDuel, with every playoff game and every playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. One more segment with you, and this is from Joel Sherman of the New York Post. He was on MLB Network, and it was a clip going around that I believe MLB Network posted. So I pulled some of the quotes from what he was talking about, the video that they had, and it's pretty interesting. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and it was kind of the beginning of this conversation. So I wanted to go a little bit deeper as far as the old moves also counting for the new moves. So here are some of the quotes from Joel Sherman. He says, I would point out that the Giants, near the end of the 2024 season, extend Matt Chapman. They signed Willy Adames. Then during last season, they trade for Rafael Devers and that contract. That counts also. That's what he says. So just to remind you, Matt Chapman extension, September 2024, Willy Adames signing in December 2024. And I just can't believe we're doing this now. Counts for what? Counts for what exactly? Because this is the type of stuff we're talking about where certain teams get treated in certain ways. That is not flying in New York, either New York team. That is not flying in Philly. That is not flying in Los Angeles. That is not flying in a lot of these kind of bigger name teams and bigger markets. That's not. I've never heard of that before. We're talking about something that happened last year during this offseason. I've never heard something like that before. It was mind-boggling to me. I was just shook. I couldn't believe I was hearing that. So he goes on to say this. I talked to a Giants guy, and then after he says that, he kind of just lays out all of the bullpen issues and everything that happened. Randy Rodriguez trading Camilo Doval. Then he goes back into, I think, his opinion and says they have to go out and get a bullpen arm or two if they're going to contend this year. They'd like to possibly do better than Casey Schmidt at second and Luis Matos in right, if not both. Okay, he says, if not both. Maybe Posey and the Giants will surprise us, but that's not what I'm hearing from other teams. They feel like their big moves were made in the previous, hold on, wait for it, 18 months. 18 months. Not a couple months ago, obviously Rafi Devers, not a couple months ago, 18 months. I've never heard anything like that in my life. Right? This is the type of stuff that we talk about if you are the Pirates, no disrespect. If you are the Reds, no disrespect. If you are one of these smaller, the Diamondbacks, no disrespect. If you are one of these smaller market teams. But can you imagine saying that the Yankees don't need to make a move? And this is Joe Sherman from the New York Post. And it's one thing, we can separate the Dodgers. If we want to separate the Dodgers and they're not reality, that's fine. We can do that. But to talk about other teams and other big markets and the idea that you could sit up there and say, well, we made our biggest moves about a year ago. We made our biggest moves of this offseason last offseason. Who does that? Who talks like that? I've never heard that. I've never heard that. So now this is the new thing. We heard Susan Slusser mention it in the article yesterday, and now I'm flabbergasted. I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I've never heard anything like this that moves from a previous offseason. And I get it, Devers, you added him, cool. But moves from a previous offseason count for this offseason. It is incredible spin. Incredible spin. And I know that I saw there's another theater they're interested in. Well, not that they're interested in, one has become available or something like that. And so people were making jokes. But this is crazy to me. The idea that the moves you made last offseason count for this offseason. I've never heard anything like it ever in my life. I don't understand how that is even a conversation, right? Let's take it. You know me. I love to have my examples and compare things to real life. I'm trying to think of a comparison to real life. Oh, I'll tell you what it is. Your parents tell you to clean your room, right? Hey, Alan, clean your room. Well, I cleaned my room last week. It's still kind of clean. Why do I have to clean my room again? I cleaned my room last week. That's the reality. You pay a mortgage, you pay a rent. Hey, the lender comes back. All right, you need to pay your mortgage. Well, I paid my mortgage last month. I paid my rent last month. Do I really need to pay it again? Can I just pay you a little less? Like this is crazy to me. What does last offseason, if we wanted to say the Devers thing, fine. And if that's their big acquisition, then just say that. How about that? Just say that. But bringing up Matt Chapman and Willy Adames from last offseason is completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. And I've never heard, they would never fix their mouth to say that about any of these other bigger market teams. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't. So I heard that and I was completely just breathtaking, and not in a good way, right? I was speechless, not in a good way. That this is what we're doing now. We're bringing up stuff from last offseason for this offseason. Okay, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Thank you for watching Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Styles Files, Styles with an I. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Giants ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonsfgiants.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On MLB. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, peace.